Cats, cops, and C4. A flash of axiom goes off from the cloaken, and suddenly there are a dozen more distortions. Kylon pulls in the axiom, and parts of the garden seem to spontaneously explode as invisible forms slam into the beds, out cold and possibly dead. Chink only notes it even as he gets Amy and Gabriella towards the manor. He activates one of the links on the chain wrapped around his belt and phases through the outer wall entirely. Stay inside, away from windows. His order given, he bars the door and then phases through the wall again to see if any further enemy reinforcements are coming. Nothing. Anyone injured? We're okay, Linda says before a slight teasing lilt enters her tone. Not that there was a fight. Your mother isn't one to take lightly. Hence why I avoid family reunions. Chink reflexively jokes. We've got a badge on these girls, Vera calls out from where she's manhandling one of the cloaken. She holds it up, and Chink can make out that it's mostly red with a V-shape in it, which either means fucking anything or she's a Spartan. He's going to assume the former and not the latter. Right, I'm going back to the VIPs. Gabriella is a target too now, so we have to keep her safe as well. Ping me if anything shows up, and I'll pour in some covering fire, he says before phasing back through the wall and then rushing through the building to be back with the two. Nothing happened? He asks them as he steps through the wall. How much longer will these mad women and monsters harass my lady? This is horrific, Gabriella states. It is. Thankfully, we're moving soon. Just getting everything in order. From my understanding, we've called in a higher power to really turn the screws on the people trying this. Even if they somehow succeed, and they won't, they will not live long enough to celebrate. How can you be sure? Does the term, the tri-tite lady, mean anything to you? Chink asks, and Amy shakes her head as Gabriella pales dramatically. She's coming here? The woman that's described as a void of mercy, so complete that half her victims beg for the death sentence? That has got to be an exaggeration, Chink states. I've seen it, Gabriella states, and Chink raises an eyebrow. Okay, I've seen it in holodramas, but they were based on fact. The only differences were the names and exact details changed for their protection of the innocent, and probably hammed up a bit to appeal to the home audience. Courtroom procedure is a long, slow, and exhausting burn. No, it's not. It's a long, slow, and exhausting burn for the people who aren't into that kind of thing, because you have to pay attention to something you don't really care about. For all that shows can make things seem interesting, they're skipping the dull parts, I guarantee it. So do you two need anything more than that outright confession? Or will there be further pushback from your parts? Chief Bowman asks, and her fellows on the Vanitas plate shake their heads. Oh no, Distracted is not mentally impaired. Her confession was not coerced, and damn, she's going to go through each and every one of our precincts like a cudgel and smash anything she categorizes as corrupt to pieces before dragging them to her court for a full roasting in front of the redemption to see if he'll protest. Hallgett states before sighing. Poor boy. Something I should be made aware of? Admiral Cistern demands. He had been sitting out mostly as Chief Bowman has little patience for corruption and was doing a more than excellent job on her own. Well, no, Harlgett says, looking uncomfortable, even as an irritated hiss comes out of Sidewinder. He's one of the few primal men and has been raised by one of the most brutal primal women. She's not a monster. When a criminal she had sentenced to death was revealed to be pregnant, she delayed the execution and was clearly going to raise the child no matter what. But when he was born primal, so much was thrown into question. The questions have settled, but he, Jaltraki, is known as the Redemption for a reason. Much like how his guardian is known as the Tri-Tite Lady, Justice Manifest, and more. He has a habit of setting up programs to rehabilitate criminals, and the proceeds go to the victims of criminals. It's complicated. Harlgett states, they're not opposites. She's the harsh justice to his gentle redemption. She is the lash of punishment. He is the medicine that heals the cuts of the lash and then sets you to work proving you've learned your lesson. Sidewinder says, he had to have been groomed that way, but it's hard to understand. Why would the Tri-Tite Lady want that? Why would she want someone to preach mercy where she feels the need to destroy? Why would she make the one person in the galaxy she's never been able to do more than chide into her opposite? Why would you assume that a person, let alone a primal one, can only be one or two things? Admiral Cistern asks. But we're off topic. The Tritite lady moves with a voice of mercy and compassion by her side. Wonderful. Fantastic. Does this mean anything to the planned raid on Juliet Comet's assets and the arrest of her person? No, Harlgett says. It does not. Sidewinder agrees. Very good. She's currently at work, which means she's in your district chief Harlgett. My men will join up with a squad of your officers. My men are there in case there are any surprises or nonsense. But if Comet doesn't fight her lawful arrest, then they're just going to be shadows and roughly as intrusive. Chief Sidewinder, this woman is sponsoring a great number of assassins and has been illegally cloning. We need her computer files and to sweep her residence in the Marble District for any and all information. We'll need a squad of your officers to make things nice and legal there. Again, my boys will only do anything if things move outside standard police procedure. They're just shadows otherwise. So more like our officers are receiving protective detail. Fine. How soon can your troops get there? ETA 10 minutes for both teams to reach Vanitas Plate. Following local traffic laws, it will take another 5 to arrive outside the office in residence respectfully. Is it too much to hope that you've sent some subtle people? Yes, Admiral Cistern states. How many each? A team of 6 to each. A team commander, a long shot, a demolition specialist, a heavy weapon expert, a combat engineer, and an adept. And how do you want the officers to respond to this team? If things go according to standard procedure, ignore them. If a fight breaks out, obey them. They'll be focused on minimizing civilian casualties and containing whatever threats occur. Cooperation will go a long way to having that happen. Admiral Cistern states, there will be further, low-profile, undaunted, nearby ready to assist. But you will not need to worry about them at all. They will not reveal themselves unless things go well and truly wrong. Understood, Sidewinder states. This feels like a test of blades, but it's just a standard arrest and seizure, right? You know the answer to that. Admiral Cistern rebukes lightly. Officer Mari was confused. A full squad for a search warrant and a seizure of all information assets? And why were they being sent out to meet with an allied force? So does anyone else think Chief Sidewinder is acting off? Yes, however, this is apparently that's an undaunted APC, Officer Gall states as they descend in front of the address. There is a silence over the van as they lower to the proper level and leave. 6 men are awaiting for them. Ma'am, we're your escorts during this operation. Unless a combat situation develops, we're nothing more than shadows. Understood? Understood. And what is the likelihood of a combat situation developing? Mari asks as her head tentacles writhe a little under the hood. This has already gone from bad to worse. The Undaunted were, well, they're a mixed bag. A feast to the senses to be around, except perhaps Axiom. But even then, their adepts were rumored to be amazing. But at the same time, they were a military, one that pumped out soldiers of absurd quality that had no issue staring down the most ridiculous opponents. It was rumored that they had even found a way to hurt a hollow daughter, which is insane. But it goes to show just how far the stories had gotten around. The plates were supposed to be the quiet places where the only nonsense that happened was some rich girl accidentally paying some gigolo with a priceless family heirloom and it being a 20-person long string to get the silly thing back. Yes, she was still bitter about last month's stupidity. Non-zero. We don't know more than that, so we are erring on the side of getting everyone out alive. The commander states, and she quickly scans his uniform for some kind of name tag. None, just a strange symbol, like a circle had been suddenly cut at the bottom and then folded out. I appreciate it, but we're just going in for a basic search and confiscation. Nothing exciting. I hope so, the commanding officer states. Do you have a name? When I'm in uniform, I am Agent Omega only. Out of it is no one's business by my own and possibly the ship chaplain. He says, and there's control snorts behind him. Okay, she says before turning to her team. All female bipeds, but that was the only thing they all had in common. All right, girls, we have a search warrant, every right to be here, and no history of crime in the area. This is strictly overkill, and I want to report it as overkill, so don't get paranoid. Remember, boys, it's only paranoia when they're not out to get you. Omega whispers into the team channel, and the men with him resist the urge to laugh. But the amusement is felt by some of the officers as they head up to the view screen next to the gated entrance to the mansion. They activate it to reveal an Agila woman in a security uniform. "Hello?" the guard asks, seeing the officers. Then squinting and looking very confused when she notices the Undaunted behind them. "What's this about? We have a warrant to search the premises for all known means of data storage." Officer Mari states, holding up the hollow warrant to be examined. "This is highly unusual, but fully legal. Why are there soldiers behind you? Undaunted ones, no less. They expect trouble. Will there be any?" Mari asks the woman, who hesitates. "Ma'am, I can accept you and your fellow officers into the grounds, but not soldiers from a foreign state. That is entirely too far." "I'm afraid I have to insist," Mari states. "No." "So you're obstructing officers in the legal pursuit of their duties?" "No, I'm preventing soldiers of a foreign state from stepping foot on privately owned property. These soldiers are for the protection of myself and my fellow officers," Mari states. "Why would you require protection on private property? That is something that you will have to ask Chief Sidewinder about." "I'll do more than that. I'll be calling my employer. Miss Comet has the right to know what you're planning to do on her property." Officer Thaumic tried not to bring attention to herself. She did. But some days it just wasn't possible to do a nice quiet job and get things finished cleanly, such as when you had 6 soldiers of a foreign state, supermodel sex machines, alien abominations, from the darkness between the stars following you. For your own protection, of course. The elevator door opened up to the top floor, and the secretary suddenly pauses in her work as they all walk out. Miss Comet, police and military to see you?" "What?" Miss Comet asks, even as the group moves past her and into Miss Comet's office. "Juliet Comet?" Officer Thaumic asks as they walk in. "What's this about?" the business metac asks as she looks up. "You are under arrest. Please come quietly and this won't end poorly," Officer Thaumic states, and Juliet pushes away from her desk somewhat and leans back. "For?" she asks, clearly stalling for time. "Homicide, conspiracy to commit homicide, identity theft, illegal cloning, illegally implanting living persons with detonation devices." Officer Thomic's explanation is cut off by a sudden call on the desk, and Juliet pokes the receiver by reflex. Hey, Miss Comet. We have officers here with a data search warrant reinforced by Undaunted." The call is canceled, and Juliet takes in a breath of air and sighs. "I really should have followed my wings," she says before her desk detonates with voice-activated shaped charges that blow the shrapnel towards the group. Alpha is out front in an instant as a hollow shield snaps into place over his left arm, and he blocks the shards of wood, metal, and stone that slam at them before there's a slight wave in the air, and the legs of the non-humans buckle as a micro-packet of null detonates. "Sir, we have large in the parking garage. Engaging!" another team declares.